Thanks.
All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Pumpkin Spice Don't Be Nice, where we're going to learn all about how to stop being so worried about what everybody else thinks about us and a little bit of the reason why we worry about that and how we can go ahead and release some of those things. So, anybody who is maybe new to me, I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. My name's Tarina, and I am a survivor. I am breaking cycles of generational abuse. I am a survivor of sexual assault and leaving a high demand religion. And through that, I have learned many things about healing and about using your voice and speaking up and boundaries and loving yourself and so many yummy, juicy things that I now love to help other people learn and implement in their lives. So if you might be in the right spot today if you're ready to kind of release the weight of other people's expectations, if you want to feel like you can express your needs, even when it conflicts with the needs and expectations of others in your life. If you want to be more comfortable being who you are authentically. And if you don't understand why you put other people first, even when you want to prioritize your own well being, and if maybe the thought of disappointing others or not being liked gives you lots of anxiety, then I'm glad you're here today because this is the place for you. Today, we're going to learn how to stop putting others' needs above our own, why putting our needs first will actually strengthen your relationships, and tools to release the fear of being disliked. Um, if you have ever done anything that maybe you didn't want to, but you were supposed to, maybe perhaps you followed the path that was what people expected you to take, and everyone promised happiness, yet you find yourself still feeling overwhelmed, depressed, anxious, and not feeling real joy in life, then I'm glad that you're here with us. The problem isn't isn't anything that you're doing or maybe what you're not doing. The problem's a little bit of a lack of understanding about how your brain works and how to address that with gentleness so that we can start creating some changes in our lives. And once you're able to identify when you're kind of in people pleasing mode and that starts to run the show and to play nicely with that, you can consciously start to make decisions to prioritize your own well being. And this will help you to start the journey of authentic living. Um, so for let me introduce you to your lizard brain. In case you don't know what your lizard brain is, evolution is not this straight shot from where we are to a goal or a destination where we want to be. It kind of evolves with whatever environmental factors are around and lots of different things. And as we have evolved as human beings, we have maintained things that no longer really serve a purpose anymore. For example, your tailbone has no purpose, yet we still kind of have a little bit of a tail from back in our lizard days. And we also have a part of our brain that functions similarly to a tailbone. It's not necessary, but it's still there, part of us in our emotional and intellectual evolution, just like our tailbone is still here in our physical evolution. So the lizard brain is your limbic cortex, and it's the part of the brain that we call the lizard brain because Dr. Joseph Tonkel puts it this way: the limbic system is about all a lizard has for brain function. So what it does is it makes sure that we stay alive and that the human race continues. That's all that it cares about, is staying alive and making sure that humanity continues. And so part of this comes all the way back from early human history, where we lived in tribes and small groups, and you literally had to be part of the group to be able to survive. If you were kicked out of your tribe or your group, you might just die because the group provided safety, it provided security, it helped provide food. And so if you got kicked out of your tribe, death was literally an option. So in kicks your lizard brain, even now in social situations where if you're not part of a social group and you kind of get the boot and people don't like you, you're not really at risk of death. Your life is not on the line if somebody doesn't like you. But because of evolution and this limbic cortex of our brain, it might feel like it to us because of the way we have evolved as humans. It has been essential for us to survive, to be part of the group. And so that's part of the job of the limbic cortex to keep us alive, is to keep us with our tribe, with our group. And so there's this deeply rooted part of our brain that feels that we have to be liked to stay alive. Now, this is not essential anymore in today's society. And so knowing that can help you to identify that in your life. And so the next time it maybe feels life or death, if somebody likes you or not, or if you make somebody happy or not, you can remember that this is the part of your brain speaking that is as intelligent as a lizard. And you can bring in your own intelligence and remind yourself that you're going to be okay if somebody doesn't like you. Your life is not on the line. So hopefully understanding the way that your brain works in as far as this evolutionary development of being included and being liked by others can help you to recognize that your brain is giving more importance to that than really is necessary in the year 2022. So we have our brain working against us, and a lot of us have a lot of teachings from society, family, religion that are also going against us. I remember when I was young, I was given messages both overtly and covertly that it's not okay to put yourself first. I was taught to put God, church, and family above myself in every way, emotionally, physically, and financially. And as I got older, I was told that it was righteous and pure and good and God approved to put my husband and my kids above myself. The problem was that when I did that, I wasn't really happy. And I didn't really know who I was. And I was constantly struggling with depression and feeling like I was not enough. And no matter how much I served others and put others above myself, that didn't change. And so as I've kind of deconstructed some of those messages that I received, I've been able to start putting myself as a priority. And surprisingly enough, it makes a difference. And it's helped me to be happier and to discover who I am and feel more comfortable with not being liked by everybody. So we have our lizard brain, and we have our own social conditioning given to us, telling us that we need to be nice and that we need to put others' needs above our own. And this may leave us feeling like we can't prioritize our own needs. And I want you to know that it is possible for you to put your own needs above another person's. And I would imagine that saying that might give you a little bit of anxiety, and it might make you feel some feelings when you think that it's okay to put yourself above somebody else, because we're always taught that it's so important to think of others, to put others first, to be nice, to be kind. And in fact, when people start to have boundaries and to prioritize their own happiness and their own needs, sometimes people who don't really understand that can say very negative things about a person when they start showing up in that way. So here are a few tools that I've found that have helped me, that maybe you might be able to utilize in your life to help you as you come to release this fear of what other people think. So I'm going to preface this by saying I don't always recommend this if you are like a really anxious person and you tend to like catastrophize your life anyway. But sometimes even if you do, it can be helpful. So I will say, use this with caution, maybe. But sometimes it can be good to do worst case scenario. So, for example, when I was a teenager, I had really bad acne. And so I got very uncomfortable going out of my home without makeup on because that was covering up what made me imperfect and made me unacceptable to other people. And then as I got older, I was like, that doesn't really jive with me. I don't really want to have to wear makeup everywhere. And I kind of thought, what's the worst thing that's going to happen if I go to the grocery store without any makeup on? And some dude that I think is cute, because I was single at the time that I was trying to process this, some dude that I think is cute thinks that I am not. What's the worst thing that's going to happen? And I sat with that for a moment. And I realized, like, well, he's probably not going to be interested in me. And what if I see somebody that I know? Oh gosh. What if I see a friend and they see me without makeup and they think that I look gross? What's the worst thing that's going to happen? They think that I look gross. Does that change who I am? No. Does it change the person that I am? No. What that really would do is show me a person who values looks over my own heart and my own personality. And so I kind of realized maybe it could be a good thing to go out and have somebody not like me because I didn't have makeup on, because it could help me to find the people who I really wanted to be in my life, because they were going to bring in the things that I wanted of love and acceptance for who I am. And so as I kind of worked through this worst case scenario thoughts, I realized not only was it not that bad, because, it didn't really matter if somebody didn't like me because I wasn't wearing makeup. And maybe it almost could be a good thing, because then I could see who the people in my life are that really love me for who I am and not just the way that I look, which is really something that's important. So sometimes this exercise of sitting and really just mindfully thinking, what's the worst thing that can happen if somebody doesn't like me, can help you to realize that maybe it won't be so bad. I've gone through this exercise before with a client who was facing a possible divorce. And so we went through it. And what's the worst thing that could happen? And as we went through this exercise of kind of looking at what was the worst thing that could happen in his life if his marriage ended, there was some hard things, but at the end of it, he realized that he would be okay. It would be really difficult and challenging to walk through, but he would be okay. So sometimes just looking at the worst thing and analyzing what that really means for you can be really helpful in releasing this anxiety that you might have in a situation moving forward. Another thing that I have done and that I encourage clients to do is to look at yourself and tell me, how often do you think about other people's lives? How often do you see somebody at the grocery store and think, man, they look horrendous? And then think about that. I mean, if you're the kind of person that might think that, then, that's you. That's okay. You do be you. But I mean, even if you do look at somebody and think, man, they look awful. Get home from the grocery store when you're putting your groceries away? Nope, you're not. You're really not. And how often when you're with your friends, does somebody say something really stupid and maybe you acknowledge that and you're like, man, that was dumb. How long are you thinking about that? And how much does that really affect your relationship with them? Unless it's something that really goes against your values, It probably doesn't. It might even make you laugh a little bit. It might make you endearing, like have endearing feelings towards them a little bit because they said something that was just goofy. And so it can be helpful to sit and look at your own self and realize how little you really think about other people. And people probably are not thinking about you much more than you're thinking about them. So sometimes just bringing in that awareness that not everybody is thinking about me. And so for the example of me being really nervous about leaving the home without makeup on, it helped me to realize that I wasn't really all that concerned about whether other people were wearing makeup or not. So maybe not everybody was as worried about me having makeup on as I was worried about me having makeup on. Sometimes it's a little more tricky though. Those are a little bit more general situations. But what if you are trying to put your own needs as a priority and you have to speak up to a spouse and say, you know what? I really need help with this because I am feeling this. And you know that they're not going to like hearing that. You're putting your own needs above their comfort. And so sometimes it can be really helpful to sit and think, what does it mean if they are unhappy if I say that to them? And so we can use an example of care tasks around the home, because I think that this is something that many couples can struggle with balance on. So maybe it's, I really need your help with getting the kids to bed in the evening because I'm tired at the end of the day and I already feel overwhelmed and tired. And I don't feel like I'm showing up as a good mom when I'm that way. And if I had your support, it would help me do that. When you are able to give them a little bit more of the reasoning, it helps them to understand better. But perhaps you're with a partner and you know that hearing that is going to make them feel defensive, or it's going to make them feel a little bit angry. It's going to make them feel like you don't appreciate what they already do, whatever it may be. Maybe you know that this is going to bring in a little bit of a discord in your relationship. And that might make you feel really uncomfortable. And you can really sit and analyze, well, what does that mean if they're angry at me about this? What does that mean about me? Not necessarily what does it mean about your relationship, but just like, what does that mean about me? If you're trying to get comfortable with somebody not being happy with you and your priorities being your own happiness and well-being. And in that scenario, if they're unhappy with you, that doesn't mean anything about you. That speaks more to them and where they are, and it speaks to your relationship. But that doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean that you're a bad person. It doesn't mean that you're selfish. And it doesn't mean that you're a bad partner. It actually means that you're trying to improve your relationship. It means that you care enough about them to express with vulnerability and clarity what your needs are. And that is going to strengthen your relationship. So sometimes if you can sit with that question, what would it mean if so-and-so doesn't like me? Can really help you to look at that and realize a couple of things. You can help become grounded in who you are and in what your intentions are. And it can help you to maybe be a little bit more mindful and aware of what some issues that might need some work within the relationship might be. And if you're maybe in a relationship where it's really toxic, and anytime you try and speak a boundary and to hold clear expectations and to express yourself clearly, perhaps that means that you need to change the dynamics of your relationship. And that's something that you can then work from there. So another aspect of releasing what people think about you is being able to be comfortable being disliked in the moment as you're speaking whatever it is that somebody is not going to like. And this can be really challenging because a lot of times when we have negative or uncomfortable emotions, there's a physical sensation that goes along with that. So a really great example of this from my life. And I want to preface this by saying that my husband is a wonderful person and a perfectly imperfect human, just like the rest of us. And he has been along this life journey with me. We've been married for 17 years. And so we've both grown a lot. And he is not the same person that he was when this story happened, just like I am not the same person. So just know that we still love my husband, even though he was a little bit of an asshole in this story. So I called my husband up because, and it's been a while ago, so I don't remember the exact details, but I had done something not great. Like I had dropped the ball on something and it affected him negatively. So I was in the wrong here and I knew it. And I had to call him and I told him. And I was also just on the start of my boundaries journey, just starting to really express things that I was okay with accepting and not accepting. And I knew that he wasn't going to be happy with me and he wasn't going to like what I had to say. I knew that, but I also knew that I had to tell him. And I knew that it meant that I was human and I had made a mistake, but my intentions were good. I did not have any ill intent or hadn't come in with any intentions to cause harm to him. And so I knew I'm still a good person, even though I made the mistake. And so I called and I told him what had happened, and he started yelling at me. And I had decided that I was not going to stay in conversations with people who were yelling at me because nothing productive happens. And so I knew that I needed to make that clear to him. Oh, I knew that. And I knew that this was going to come when I had previously made the decision that I'm not going to tolerate being yelled at anymore. My heart was racing. I got sweaty. I literally think that my voice was a little bit shaky. I took a deep breath as I felt that. And I reminded myself that I am safe in my body, because there was a time in my life in my childhood where it was not a safe space to be yelled at. And this was part of the reason why I knew that I didn't want to tolerate being yelled at anymore, is because it would bring up these emotions from past experiences. And so I took a deep breath and reminded myself I'm safe in my body. I very, very nervously said, I understand that you're very upset, and that's okay because I made a mistake, and I'm not going to be yelled at right now. And so I think it's best if we finish this conversation when you get home and we can speak clearly. Whew, whew. Like, oh my goodness, I'm gonna die right now.
Wow.
It was so scary for me to say that. And right now I could say that to anybody and it wouldn't be a big deal. I don't even know if it would bring up any physical sensation for me because I've become so much more comfortable with boundaries. But when I was first doing that, even something that's so simple and should be so easy to express and to be respected as don't yell at me, made me so scared and physically nervous. And so I think it's important to remember that doesn't mean that you're doing anything wrong. These physical sensations that may arise are not an indication that you're a bad person or that you're doing something wrong. It just means that it's new. It's a new situation for you. And so being aware that you're going to feel physical sensation come up when you are clearly expressing yourself and when you are saying or doing something that somebody is not going to be happy about, that's a good thing. So welcome that and look for that and know that that's okay, and be prepared with tools to help you through that. And so one of the ways is to just be a little bit grounded in your body. And depending on the scenario, you might be able to put your hand on your heart, and so that you feel a little bit of just safety in that way. It might be that you're in a situation where that looks really awkward and weird and you can't be like talking to your boss, like putting your hand on your heart. And so maybe you prepare in advance and you have a little something in your pocket that you can hold with the intention of reminding yourself that you're safe and you're grounded in your body. It can be taking deep breaths. This is something that is good and can help your body to move the energy. And so taking a deep breath, is fine. And I think that if you're in a situation where you're a little bit nervous and you have a little bit of physical sensation, anybody is going to know and expect that they're not going to think it's weird for you to take a deep breath. Another way can be to grab some water real quick. My voice is a little scratchy. Another thing you can do with taking a deep breath or like touching yourself in a kind way is something that I said, like having a token somewhere that you can hold or a piece of jewelry. Maybe you can like put a little grounding thought or energy into a ring and then just hold that ring. And that can remind you that I am safe in my body. Another tool that I really like to teach people is stop and smile. A lot of times when we're having high stakes conversation, our brain gets ahead of our mouth or vice versa. They don't sync up quite right. And it can be really useful to just take a moment and stop and smile. And smiling helps indicate to your brain that you are safe as well. This physical act of smiling helps your brain know that you're safe. And so smiling also shows the other person openness and kindness versus if we're just pausing in the middle of a high stakes conversation and we've got this kind of a look on our face, it might not be as inviting. And so when you remember to bring in a smile, stop and smile, it gives you a moment to pause, catch your thoughts, let your mouth and your brain kind of catch up with each other, and then continue while also still looking welcoming and inviting to the other person. So remembering to breathe, to be able to physically ground yourself in some way, whether that's like touching your heart, rubbing your thigh, whatever could feel good to you, or having a token in your pocket or your body. And the tool of stop and smile can be tools that are really helpful to work through some of the physical sensation, as well as the mental tool of just acknowledging and knowing that it's okay that you feel uncomfortable and that this discomfort is actually a sign of your growth and you're choosing to try new things that are going to help you to stay present and make new choices and create new environments and relationships in your life. And this can also, this staying present and being mindful can also help you with overcoming this lizard brain that we have that is going to make you feel like your life is literally on the line if somebody doesn't like you. It's also helpful to remember that there's like almost 8 billion people in the world, and it's literally impossible for all of them to like you. Literally, it's impossible. And you can also remember that there's people that you don't really like, and that's okay. It doesn't necessarily mean anything about that person that you don't like them. It just means that maybe their values are not aligned with yours. Maybe their sense of humor is not the same as yours. Maybe their tastes in different things are not the same as yours. It doesn't mean that they're a bad person because you don't necessarily like them. It just means that you guys are not as aligned and compatible as you are with somebody else. That doesn't mean that they're a bad person. And so just like you have the capacity to dislike another human being without disvaluing their humanity, it's possible for other people to dislike you without it disvaluing your humanity. It's helpful to remember that regardless of what anybody else thinks of you, your worth is not, it's not a variable rate. Like, it doesn't change. You're not worth more because more people like you, and you're not worth less because less people like you. Your worth is inherent, and it is exactly the same regardless of what other people may perceive of you or how they may perceive you. And so it's helpful to remember that your worth is yours just because you are a human being and just because you're here on this earth. So just a kind of overview, we have our lizard brain that is here with basically two functions: to help keep us alive, like our body still alive, and to help humanity progress and continue. It's not concerned about much else. And then we have societal expectations for us to be good, to be kind, to keep the peace, to put others above ourselves. And those two combined can make us feel very uncomfortable with being disliked. Your lizard brain may actually think that your life is in danger if people don't like you, because it used to be back when we were in tribes. And so tools to help with that are to be able to remember and acknowledge those things, and to be able to use your breath to catch up and calm your body, to remember that the discomfort is normal and actually a good sign, because it means that you're doing something new, not necessarily something bad. To think about worst case scenario, really, what's the worst that's going to happen if somebody doesn't like you? And to kind of think about, what would that mean if this person doesn't like me? What does that mean about me? What does that mean about our relationship? So I would encourage you, as you start to step into releasing the fear of being disliked, to really take some time, maybe grab a journal over the weekend. And if there's a specific person that you're worried about disliking you, or being really disappointed in you because of a decision that you make or a boundary that you're trying to establish, really sit down and journal about the why. Why is that going to be so? Why is it so difficult? What's the fear behind that? And to think about, what does that mean about you? Like, what are your feelings about this? What does this mean about me? And what does that mean about our relationship? And you might find some really good tidbits that can help you as you move forward with that. And you might find some areas where you can work on growth with that other person and within yourself. I just want to share that this is all work that I love to do with my one-on-one clients, to help people to really feel comfortable with doing this and to fall in love with themselves, and really figure out how to let go of caring about what other people think. When I say that, I like to put a disclaimer. It's not that you don't care. It's that you love yourself more than worrying about what other people think about you. And when you're able to really stop worrying about what other people think of you, then you're able to show up in the world as the person who is going to be able to do the most good, as your authentic self. When you really show up as yourself, that is when you're really able to create the most impact and the most good in the world. And if you're living your life trying to live up to other people's expectations and trying to live in a way so that everybody likes you, then you're not going to be able to really discover how you can best serve yourself and serve others in this world, because you're going to be too busy worrying about what they think about you. And so it can also be helpful to take a moment to think of, what are the costs of putting everybody else's needs and desires and expectations above my own? What are the costs? I can tell you a couple right now that are pretty generic to everybody. Is it's costing you genuine relationships with deep vulnerability and connection, because when you're showing up as who somebody else wants you to show up as, you're not showing up as yourself. And you can't have a truly intimate connection with somebody if you're not even showing up as yourself. And I know that there's other ways, and probably ways very specific to you and your life, that putting other people above yourself and what they want above your own wants and needs, what that's costing you in your life. So I would invite you to take a moment to journal or think and ponder about that, and just kind of see, what are the costs of doing this? And you might see those costs and decide that they're just not worth it, and that your own happiness and peace is definitely more important. And if that's something that you decide and you would like some support with that and your journey in discovering how to do that and feel comfortable, then I would love for you to get in touch with me. And maybe we can schedule a call and see what working together may look like. My email is pretty simple. My name, it's Tarina@tarinamaldonado.com. So feel free to shoot me an email, and we could see what that might look like. Since most people are going to be viewing this on the replay, I'll just say, if anybody has any questions, or if you want to share any of your aha moments or key takeaways, I would love to hear from you. So please feel free to just reply to this email, and let me know what your thoughts are. And thank you everybody who joined in live, and anybody who watched the replay. I really am thankful for you taking the time. And I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.